Hey guys, Jen's here. So I today I'm going to talk to you about how I got to where I am as a sober operator today, which isn't very far at this point in the journey, but I've learned a lot up to this point. So I was in marketing for 2 decades, and around 2018, I realized I was in what you call the comfort trap, I guess. Everything's perfect on paper. Amazing husband, love our house, 2 kids, dog, good cars, all that stuff. But there was something in the pit of my stomach. I wanted more. I knew I was meant for more. So I just felt this weird sensation that I couldn't put my finger on. It was like how come I'm not satisfied? And the journey I kind of went on from there, I did get a coach. There have been a lot of different moments of clarity along the journey. And just the very beginning was working with a coach and just really allowing myself to understand some things about my youth and my growing up that I had said, oh, everybody has struggles. That doesn't really affect me. I'm fine, whatever. We all have trauma, okay? So understanding that, and then understanding that this feeling, this me just crying at certain when talking about certain subjects that didn't make any sense to me, because it wasn't like I was talking about trauma or anything from my past when I was getting these overwhelming feelings. Just started to figure out that composure. I had a really, really, really strong desire to help people on a level deeper than I had been. And my niche in marketing had become plumbing and HVAC, which I didn't, and home service companies. I didn't set out to do that, but it's really funny because I come from a family full of pipe fitters and electricians. And so it just worked out that way. And I had convinced myself that because my flagship client was such a giver and gave so much to the community and gave so much to her employees and employed so many people and provided for their families. And I had convinced myself that vicariously through her, I was giving back to society. But that just wasn't enough. I wanted to do more. I wanted to get in the trenches, and like just really help from a ground up level. So from there, I started to do, other personal development. I did some things. I did a knowledge broker blueprint with Tony Robbins and Dean Graciosi. I just got a lot more clarity in my mind about what I wanted to do, how I can move on from marketing and just scale up my life, like level up. And I had created like a success ceiling for myself. And again, a lot of that is because I wasn't living my purpose. That evolved into somewhere in that period, I started questioning, okay, well, how is my drinking keeping me from leveling up? I started questioning my relationship with alcohol. And gosh, looking back when I was doing that work and realizing that how much it was a part of my life. That's just everywhere we go in life. Like alcohol is how we celebrate. Alcohol is how we grieve, how we suffer. Alcohol is a part of everything we do. And for me, I right out of high school, pretty much. That's another funny story that I'll tell you why I first got into the service industry. But I bartended for like 15 years. Even after I had my college degree, it was, bartending paid more than jobs with a degree. So it took me a while to get out of that. But my husband was a liquor rep, and it was just there was a I don't want to say a reason, but there was just drinking every day for whatever. So that evolves when it just becomes a part of your life. And I became alcohol free, and the clarity and new confidence and motivation that I got from that, I decided I had to pay that forward. So I became certified as a sober curious coach with This Naked Mind. And at the same time that I was pursuing that, something had come up where there was a town that my dad had been telling me to invest in because there was a big old plant that was going to be built there. And I went to try and buy a property there. And what I learned at that time was that no matter how I really tried to finagle it, I was going with the awareness that I had at that time, I was going to need 20% down to buy a house there. And after going through all of that, I made the decision that I wasn't going to be caught in that position again. I knew I had this idea that investing in real estate was going to be significant for me. It was going to be a way to create generational wealth for my family. I got alcohol free. I decided I wanted to buy a property. I didn't have my ducks in a row for that at the time. I decided I was not going to let that happen again. Facebook was listening and started serving me ads for a mentorship. So I started studying real estate investing as I became alcohol free and went through the education for coaching, and then also started learning about real estate. This idea, plus a previous coaching, knowing that I really wanted to, ultimately, I want to help families from the ground up. I want to create generational change. I want to change the paradigm by making more equipped parents. Not that everybody that I serve has to have children or has to be a parent, but if we can pull grown-ups up that are struggling and give them coping skills that they lacked and cause them to turn to use anyway, then not only can we get them substance free and living a life of joy and level up and be contributing members of society, if they do have kids already or are going to have kids, they will be better equipped to raise better coping kids. Anyway, I just want this to ripple out and become a whole thing. Point is, I just realized that there was this connection happening on helping people get sober, but also providing them with housing, and that these two educations that I was getting were going to be perfect together. Some of the lessons that I learned on the way to getting this house, so or becoming an operator of this house. This was a long journey. My partner had done a few deals. She had more like Airbnbs and midterm rentals. I had done a flip. I'll do a video about that one day because it was everything that you're not supposed to do on your first deal. It was a hoarded, manufactured rural home. More on that another time. So with this particular house, now there are multiple ways that you can get a house for group homes. You can, of course, buy a house. There are so many ways to buy a house. I'll talk about that in other videos. Sub2 is a great mentorship with Pace Morby. If you go check that out, I believe there's a link in the description. So many strategies for buying a home. You can also do rental arbitrage, which is something that we're going to try to do next. So you just find a landlord, let them know, be transparent about what you're doing. I recently spoke to a landlord. I know an organization that got shut down, and he doesn't even know that his house was a group home. And be transparent about what your intentions are with the home. But the benefit is that instead of renting to a traditional long-term renter as an established business, they can have less concern about you paying your rent on time and consistently and not falling behind. Also, that you may be able to pay them higher than market value rent. You might be able to pay more than what their typical long-term renter would charge. So it's rental arbitrage. We're not doing that yet, but we definitely intend to do that. I would, I still think that if you're into it, like the owning the real estate play is good because then you're working on appreciation. You can at points, you can refinance the home, reinvest the money into the home, or start new group homes with that money. So lessons that we learned with this house, the way that we were wholesaling at the time, and we were not marketing in the town where we have purchased this home. We were marketing in Katy, in Houston. And the person that we reached out to actually said, we couldn't work out a deal. She said, it doesn't really work for me. However, I have this friend that's in need. She's facing foreclosure. She's a disabled vet. So we called this person, and we have a little bit of a history of martyrdom, I guess, and maybe buying houses that we shouldn't. And I want to be careful about saying buying houses that we shouldn't, because again, hindsight, I think this was more of like a divine intervention. So disabled veteran, foreclosure, that's, a specialty, is that we know how to stop foreclosures. So in this case, we decided to pay the arrears on the home, and we were actually going to wholesale it, because that's what we were doing at the time. Even though we knew like this wasn't really a wholesale market, it was a unique house. It was really nostalgic for me. Never invest based on emotion. But so we got the house. This is not the typical way you should do this. So this is not a lesson in what you should do. We we paid this significant amount of arrears. So we were invested in this thing, and we were going to wholesale it. Then when wholesaling didn't work out because of the market, the uniqueness, the size of the house, then we were going to do a quick lipstick flip. Well, along this process, we had locked up another house up in the Dallas area that was the largest home in the neighborhood. And through both of these homes, what we learned was about something called the neighborhood cap. So if you are in real estate investing or just starting out, and you do your own, how to underwrite, you're doing your own underwriting, something that we learned was the neighborhood cap. When you have the largest or unique home in the neighborhood, you can't just do an average square foot pricing comp. What you need to do is go with the neighborhood cap. So whatever the highest sell in the neighborhood has been, that's your cap. That's as high as you should go. So basically we got the home under contract too high. So we get in, even with our lipstick flip, this was like 5 different strategies in one home. Okay. So when we couldn't do that, then we tried to sell it to a contractor. We put out like Spanish speaking ads, hoping that like a local contractor would want to buy it as their homestead, fix it up. That wasn't working. Eventually, so then we turned it into a novation. So a novation is kind of like when you see, it's a fancy word for what you see on HGTV all the time, where the designer comes in, they partner with the homeowner, they fix it up, and then when they sell the house on market, they split the profits. So that's what we were going to do. With that, when we were wholesaling it, and these are things we had missteps. When we were going to wholesale it, as a wholesaler, you don't go in and inspect the property. So that would have been for the end buyer to do. Well, the way things evolved, we never like got in and did that full inspection. When we did get to that point and had the inspection, we found the budget that we had originally put forth to do the quick lipstick fix was not really enough. There were additional things wrong with the house that needed to be fixed. So let's see, I'm trying to, like I said, this was 5 different strategies. So I'm trying to figure out like, everything that we went through. I suppose at the point that we decided when we were going to lipstick flip it, that's when we got our PML and private money lender. If some of you guys watching aren't down with all that yet. So we had a private money lender, and there were a couple of them that got together to come up with the funds. And this was so that we could pay, this was I think before when we were even stopping the pre-foreclosure. By the way, paying the arrears is not the way that you typically go about stopping a foreclosure. This is just where we were at with this home based on what we thought that we could do with it at that time.